Everyone wants the secret, the hidden mind trick that will make her regret walking away. They search for the perfect line, the perfect text, the perfect strategy to pull her back in. But here's the truth that most men don't want to hear. The most powerful mind trick isn't about her at all, it's about you. The real trick isn't manipulation, it's transformation. It's becoming the man she didn't believe you could be, the man who no longer needs her validation to feel whole, the man who stops chasing, stops begging, stops bleeding his energy into someone who chose to walk away, the man who takes that pain, that anger, that emptiness, and uses it as fuel to build a life so full, so sharp, so disciplined that her absence stops feeling like a loss and starts feeling like freedom. And here's where the psychology comes in. People only regret losing what they can't replace. When you grow into a man of purpose, of calm, of quiet confidence, you become rare. And in a world full of men desperate for approval, a man who no longer seeks it becomes magnetic. This isn't about playing games. This isn't about faking strength. This is about mastering yourself so completely that her perception of you changes, not because you tried to change it, but because you actually changed. And when that happens, the regret doesn't come from what you do to her. It comes from what you've done for yourself. In this video, I'll break down the true mind trick that flips the script, not by controlling her thoughts, but by controlling your own. If you're ready to stop chasing and start building, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. I build, I rise, I master myself. Now, let's begin. Number 1, the power of pulling away. The first shift happens when you pull away, not with drama, not with anger, but with calm, deliberate distance. Because when you stop chasing, when you stop fighting to prove your value, you do something powerful. You take back control of the story. Psychologically, people crave what feels scarce. When you were always available, always texting first, always checking in, always trying to fix things, your presence became predictable. Predictability kills value. But when you pull away, when you remove your energy completely, you break that pattern. You create space. And that space is where tension, curiosity, and eventually regret begin to grow. But here's the key. Pulling away isn't about punishing her. It's not about waiting for her to notice or begging the universe for a text. It's about reclaiming the energy you've been bleeding into someone else and redirecting it inward, into your growth, your goals, your discipline. This is where dark psychology meets Stoic strength. You're not trying to manipulate her emotions, you're mastering your own. And that shift changes everything. Because the moment you stop needing her to validate you, the dynamic flips. She no longer feels the comfort of knowing you're still there, waiting. She feels the quiet absence of a man who finally chose himself. And here's the paradox. The more you focus on you, not her, the more magnetic you become. Not because you're trying to be, but because true confidence, true purpose, and true calm are impossible to ignore. Number 2, breaking the pattern she expects. People are wired for patterns. When you were with her, you built one. Consistent responses, predictable reactions, the same cycle of arguments, makeups, and attention. Even after the breakup, she expects that pattern to continue. She expects that if she pulls away, you'll chase. If she ignores you, you'll push harder. If she tests you, you'll fold. But the moment you break that pattern, the entire dynamic shifts. Psychologically, this is called pattern interruption, and it's one of the most powerful triggers of human curiosity and reevaluation. When you stop showing up the way she expects, she's forced to reframe her perception of you. You're no longer the man she thought she understood. You're no longer the man she thought she could predict. And that unpredictability creates tension that can only be resolved by her rethinking the way she sees you. This doesn't mean playing games or faking strength. It means genuine transformation. It means pulling back because you've realized your worth, not because you're hoping she notices. It means letting go of the old patterns that kept you stuck and replacing them with calm, disciplined focus on your own growth. The Stoics lived by this principle long before psychology gave it a name. Marcus Aurelius taught that when you change yourself, the world around you changes as well. By breaking the old patterns, by refusing to react, refusing to beg, refusing to explain, you communicate something far more powerful than words. I no longer need to be chosen. I have already chosen myself. And that single shift, the calm, quiet breaking of the old dynamic, is often what plants the first seeds of regret. Number 3, redirecting your energy. When a relationship ends, most men keep pouring energy into the same empty well, checking her socials, replaying memories, or daydreaming about reconciliation. But here's the harsh truth. That energy is wasted. It changes nothing. It builds nothing. It only keeps you stuck. The real shift happens when you redirect that energy inward. Instead of obsessing over her, you invest in you, your growth, your body, your mission, your discipline. And when you do, something powerful happens. The pain starts to feel like progress. From a psychological perspective, this is how you break the cycle of obsession. The human brain craves focus. If you don't give it something constructive, it will cling to something destructive. But when you replace those thoughts of her with purposeful action, training harder, learning new skills, leveling up in your work, you start to rewire your identity. You go from being the man who was left to the man who is building. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Redirecting your energy is the ultimate reaction. Not lashing out, not seeking revenge, but quietly and consistently building yourself into someone stronger, calmer, and more disciplined than before. And here's the paradox. When you redirect your energy away from her, you stop orbiting her world, and she starts to feel the gravity of yours. But by then, you won't even care, because you'll be too busy rising. Number 4, emotional control is magnetic. Nothing is more powerful or more rare than emotional control. Most men lose it when they're hurt. They lash out, beg for attention, spiral into chaos, or let anger dictate every move. But the man who stays calm, the man who refuses to let his emotions pull the strings, that man becomes magnetic. This isn't about being cold or numb. It's about learning to feel your emotions without letting them control you. The Stoics mastered this art. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Emotional control is that strength in action. It's choosing stillness when you want to react. It's choosing silence when you want to argue. It's choosing focus when you want to spiral. Psychologically, emotional control shifts the dynamic instantly. When she expects chaos and you respond with calm, it disrupts her entire perception of you. It forces her to see you in a different light, no longer as the man ruled by impulse, but as the man who leads himself. That quiet composure becomes attractive because it's so rare in a world full of emotional chaos. And here's the deeper power. Emotional control isn't just magnetic to others. It transforms you. It sharpens your confidence. It keeps your dignity intact. It allows you to move through the world without constantly reacting to every trigger, every test, every loss. When you master your emotions, you become the man who doesn't chase validation because you no longer need it. And that calm, steady strength, that's what makes you unforgettable. Number 5, the scarcity principle. Humans are wired to value what feels scarce. When you were always available, always texting first, always dropping everything to respond, you taught her, without even realizing it, that your presence had no cost. And what comes without cost is almost always taken for granted. But when you pull away, when you create true distance, something shifts. Your absence becomes noticeable, your silence becomes loud, and that scarcity, the sudden lack of your attention, creates tension that psychology calls the scarcity effect. People start to rethink the value of what they no longer have easy access to. The key is that this can't be faked. The scarcity effect only works when the distance is real, when you've actually stopped chasing, stopped clinging, stopped centering your life around her. That authenticity is what makes the shift so powerful. The Stoics understood this principle in a deeper way. Seneca wrote, "Begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life." When you start living fully for yourself, instead of waiting to be chosen, your time and your presence become something valuable, something rare. And people notice rarity, they respect it. But here's the paradox. By the time she begins to feel that scarcity, you won't even care, because you'll have already learned the deeper lesson that your value was never in her attention to begin with. It was in the life you were building all along. Scarcity doesn't make you manipulative. It makes you disciplined. It reminds you, and everyone else, that your energy, your focus, and your presence are a privilege, not a guarantee. Number 6, the glow of self-improvement. There's something undeniable about a man who grows in silence. No announcements, no theatrics, just consistent, quiet improvement that turns him into a version of himself no one saw coming. That's the glow of self-improvement, and it's one of the most powerful psychological triggers of regret. When you stop chasing and start building, everything about you begins to change. Your posture straightens, your body tightens, your confidence sharpens. You speak less, but with more authority. You carry yourself differently, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you've actually leveled up. Psychologically, this creates what experts call self-reinforcing attraction. People are drawn to progress. They notice discipline. They feel the energy of a man who is moving forward. And when she sees you, whether in person, online, or even through mutual connections, that quiet transformation speaks louder than any words could. The Stoics valued this kind of growth above all else. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You just need to build every day in silence and in discipline." And here's the paradox. When you start improving for you, not to make her regret, not to get her attention, she feels that shift. But by the time that regret shows up, you'll have outgrown the version of yourself that needed her in the first place. The glow of self-improvement isn't about revenge. It's about becoming the man you should have been all along, and doing it so well that the world, including her, has no choice but to notice. Number 7. Silent confidence speaks louder than words. Confidence isn't loud. It's not bragging, flexing, or trying to prove your worth. Real confidence is quiet. It's the calm presence of a man who knows who he is, what he wants, and where he's going. And that silent confidence, it speaks louder than anything you could ever say. When you've done the work, when you've rebuilt your mind, your body, and your purpose, you no longer need validation. You're not trying to be seen. You're not trying to convince anyone of your value. You simply live it. And that calm detachment, that steady energy, draws people in naturally. Psychologically, humans are drawn to certainty. In a world full of men who need constant approval, the man who moves through life with quiet assurance stands out. He becomes the rare presence that others want to be near, because confidence without neediness is magnetic. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology. Epictetus taught, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." Your silent confidence is that embodiment. It's showing through action, discipline, and growth that you are a man in control, not because you want to impress anyone, but because you've mastered yourself. And here's the paradox. The less you try to prove your worth, the more undeniable your worth becomes. She'll notice, not because you're seeking her attention, but because you've stopped needing it entirely. Silent confidence isn't about playing a role. It's about becoming the man who no longer has to speak to be heard. Number 8. Rebuilding your masculine frame. At the core of this entire transformation is one thing: rebuilding your masculine frame. Your frame is your foundation, your mindset, your values, your purpose. It's what keeps you steady when the world tries to shake you. Without it, you drift. With it, you become unshakable. When you were in that relationship, You may have lost that frame without realizing it. You started compromising your standards. You started chasing instead of leading. You started centering your world around her instead of your mission. And when that happens, the balance collapses. Rebuilding your masculine frame means taking that power back. It means defining who you are and what you stand for, with or without her. It means setting boundaries, not to control anyone else, but to protect your own peace and purpose. Psychologically, this is what makes you magnetic. A man with a strong frame doesn't get rattled by rejection or silence because his value isn't tied to anyone else. He moves forward with focus and discipline, and people feel that energy. The Stoics lived this truth daily. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to stay anchored in virtue, no matter what storms came his way. That's what frame really is, being so grounded in who you are that external chaos can't move you. And here's the paradox. When you rebuild your masculine frame, you stop caring about whether she regrets losing you. You've already leveled up. You've already won, not by beating her, but by becoming the man you were always meant to be. Rebuilding your frame isn't about her. It's about creating a life where you're so focused, so disciplined, and so full that no one can ever take your power again. Number 9. When she feels the shift. At some point, if you've done the work, there's a moment when she feels it, the shift. The energy she once took for granted is no longer there. The man who used to orbit her world has built his own. And that absence? It's louder than any words you could ever speak. Psychologically, this is what's known as cognitive dissonance, the discomfort people feel when reality no longer matches the story they've been telling themselves. She thought you'd always be there. She thought you'd always chase. She thought you couldn't move forward without her. But now, she sees a man who is calm, confident, and thriving without her validation. That shift does something powerful. It forces a re-evaluation. She begins to question her decision. She begins to wonder if she misjudged you. And often, that quiet doubt grows into regret, not because of anything you've said or done to provoke it, but because your growth has rewritten the narrative. But here's where the true power lies. By the time she feels that shift, you won't need her to feel it. You won't need her apology, her attention, or her validation, because you've already built something far more valuable: self-respect, purpose, and peace. The Stoics taught that victory isn't found in controlling others, but in controlling yourself. When she feels the shift, that's just proof that your discipline, your detachment, and your focus have done exactly what they were meant to do. Not to change her, but to change you. And that's when you realize the truth. Her regret isn't the win. Your growth is. Number 10. Winning by living well. The greatest mind trick isn't a trick at all. It's building a life so full, so grounded, and so purposeful that you stop needing anyone's approval, including hers. Because the truth is, real victory isn't her regret. Real victory is waking up every day proud of the man you've become. The Stoics knew this centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. When your thoughts are focused on growth, discipline, and purpose, everything else falls into place. Your energy sharpens, your confidence rises, and your presence becomes something no one can ignore." From a psychological perspective, this is the ultimate reframe. Instead of chasing her, you've invested in you. Instead of fighting to prove your worth, you've built it. And that transformation is what makes her regret inevitable. Not because you were trying to make her feel that way, but because people always notice what they can no longer access. But here's the paradox. By the time you've built that life, by the time you've found that peace, you won't care whether she regrets losing you or not, because you'll be too busy living, too busy growing, too busy enjoying a life that you created for yourself. Winning isn't about proving her wrong, it's about proving yourself right, that you could rise, rebuild, and become untouchable. And that's not a mind trick, that's mastery. The real mind trick was never about her, it was about you, about pulling back your energy, rebuilding your strength, and stepping fully into the man you were meant to be. And when you do that, regret becomes inevitable. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped needing it. That's the essence of dark psychology combined with Stoic wisdom. Control yourself, and you control the game. Not through manipulation, not through mind games, but through calm, steady mastery of your mind, your emotions, and your purpose. So stop chasing, stop waiting, stop hoping, building rise, master yourself. Because the man who does that doesn't just move on, he moves up. And when you've reached that level, no loss, no silence, no rejection can touch you. If you're ready to stop bleeding energy into the past and start building a future that makes you untouchable, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. I build, I rise, I master myself. Thanks for watching Stoic Blessing, where men rise, rebuild, and become impossible to replace.